Every parent dreams of raising a straight-A student who stars in a sport. Very few live out that dream. But to have 3 children? That's right. For Natalie and Leonard Clavo, they are batting 3 for 3 with sons Nainoa, Lenny, and Matias. Nainoa was a salutatorian and all-island wrestler at FD in 2015 who now attends Stanford. Lenny was the 2017 FD valedictorian who also started in wrestling and recently picked up boxing at Notre Dame. The youngest child, Matias, is a junior at FD and is ranked number 1 in the class academically with a 4.0 GPA. He's also a wrestling star and this year's rugby MVP. What's the winning formula? We tried to get the answers from their parents.
Plan to have 3 sons, or did you plan to have more? And give us a little history about family planning in regards to children.
Well, we would have wanted to have more. More was in the plan. But it was, okay, so when you go from 1 to 2, it's like, whoa. What did I, yeah, it was a big jump, 1 to 2. If you're going to have 2, you might as well have 3, 4, or 5. I think I'd be a pretty tough mom for girls.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know if that's a good thing.
Even for boys, but yeah, I think boys just, I just say we kind of grew into it. So I mean, I'm sure if we had a girl, she'd be all right. She'd be happy. But because we had the boys, we just that's kind of what we had. And I come from a family. I have 1 sister, but you know, I got 3 brothers, so we're just used to being around boys.
All right. So going back to their upbringing with their 3 sons, sometimes parents kind of have an idea that they've got, you know, some special kids on board. When were the first couple of signs of your boys that you knew that, you know, they were academically strong and athletically strong?
We never really forced them to do any sport. I think I forced them to do soccer, right? Our oldest, we said you have to play soccer because we just think he needed to do a team sport early, and then they loved it, and then they did it for a while, and then they grew into the sports that they did. You know, they're special to us, right? And they've done well in a lot of the stuff that they do. But you know, to me, it's more about that they worked hard, and we were able to support them to do whatever they wanted to do, and you know, we're lucky that they've excelled at it.
So Nat, you know, you always have to build and nurture your child. What were some of the things that you set in stone right off the bat with your kids, especially when it comes to homework? Because I've heard stories of when mama says, go in and do your homework, they didn't even flinch and they went in. So how much of that emphasis and how early in their lives did you establish that?
Well, I think one of the most important things, and I got it in my growing up, was that there were a few things you could count on. And we could count on what time my dad was going to be home, you know, and that we would eat dinner together and certain things like that. So there are certain things that they could count on, right? And eating together was something that we still do. We also do Sunday dinner together. But routine and consistency is really something that I think has been helpful, and that they bought into it. You know, I didn't really have to force them too much. They knew what the expectation was. They had to do one outside sport, like sport. They had to have a sport. They had to have their altar server ministry, their vocation to the church, and they had to do the best that they could do.
Why do you think that's the case, that they didn't follow in your footsteps and decided to do their own, or they didn't even try football? So why do you think that's the case?
I think it's just more what they liked. I think also maybe their body types and their athletic ability. They're not, except for Matias, the other 2 aren't big guys, and they, you know, most of their friends their interests were in other things. You know, we never really forced them to do the things that we love to do, because they all got to make their own way. And you know, we love football, but you know, they never even thought about playing football. You know, they all played rugby at the middle school level, which was just flag. And Nainoa played a little bit in his freshman year until he got hurt. And then he just said, well, you know, I don't want to get hurt. I want to focus on wrestling. So he did that. And then Lenny he just never showed any interest in football. Even up to now, I think, you know, he goes to Notre Dame football games, but I don't think he really understands it. What
I used to try to do when they were younger was put them all in the same, because it was easier, because I had they're all 2 years apart. So they would all go to Boy Scouts, or they would all go to soccer, or they would all do piano, you know. And then we reached this point where they started to have opinions of their own, and they started to, so Nainoa asked, Mom, can I do guitar? And so, you know, then I had him in guitar, the others in piano. Or Lenny didn't want to do soccer anymore. So at the end of the season, you know, I said, okay, you don't need to do soccer, but you need to do something.
We always said, if you're going to join a sport, you got to finish the season. You got to go to practice, and you got to finish the season. After you finish your commitment, then you don't have to play anymore. And they usually liked it. I mean, we even tried they even played basketball for Mavericks, and
we tried different things.
And
they all picked up on their own what worked for them and what they, you know, learned to love. And I think that has been also a blessing, because, you know, you have three boys. They all have different strengths, and everyone has something they can work on, right? And so it's nice that they've always had this competitive spirit in the house, but it's always been something that they fed off of.
So within those lines, right, going back to giving parental advice, in hindsight, in looking back at the elementary and middle school years, what went right and what went not necessarily wrong, but what would you have done differently with your three boys in the elementary and middle school era?
I don't think that I would do anything different, because, like, one thing I never did do was, like, ask for a certain situation, like ask for a certain class or a certain teacher or anything, because, you know, you never really know how they're gonna, you know, and as far as I'm concerned, all teachers are good, and the kids have to find a way to make it work, you know, not trying to control their situation. But we are involved parents. We've been involved as far as coaching and organizing Team Mother, and then there's that fine line about helping.
The parental involvement always kind of correlates with the success of a child, and how much work. I mean, you know, the successful parents know this, but for everybody else, how much work does it take to be a parent of a child that has the potential to be successful?
Oh, I think it's hard work for any parent doing anything, because every kid can achieve any. I mean, that sounds cliche-ish, but it's true. Every kid can achieve something. It's a never-ending job for, you know, you're a parent, and you just try to make the right decisions and do the right thing by them, and set right examples for them, and let them grow on their own, right? So they, you know, Nat is we're lucky, because Nat, I'm like I wouldn't say I'm the buddy, but I'm the coach and their buddy. Nat is the disciplinarian, and she sets the rules for the boys. So, you know, we're a good team, and I think any parents, you know, need a good team, and because it really takes a village. There's a lot of people. To say it's just us, that would be wrong. It was like we just found a lot of help, and we took their advice seriously.
Out here, high school phase now. You grew up in Hawaii. You have kind of not familiar with the history of Father Duenas.
I was in like
I'm sure you were. Now, I mean, tell me about your perspective as a mother. You know, coming to Guam and with your three sons going there and excelling and all of that stuff, with the rich history of the school. What's your take on that as a mother?
Okay, so I have to tell you that when we first started looking into schools for the kids at elementary level, Len said, okay, they can go to any school, but I'm going to tell you, FD is non-negotiable. They are going to FD. Okay, I get it. All boys school. I was a little nervous because they're raised in a house with all boys. I wondered what it would be, and I went to a co-ed school, but boy, is it something special. You know, and I know that all schools have this bond, right? All schools have this bond, but it really has been something that has pulled my boys through tough times and helped them even through in the good times too. You know, to have that camaraderie that is shared, and in the case of FD, it's the brotherhood.
It's a tough school, FD. Both of us went through it. Really, in the truest sense of a college preparatory school. Talk about that and how that has prepared your so far 2 sons and going on a third to go to a really prestigious college.
Any school is what you make it, right? There's great kids everywhere. You know, FD is a special place. I mean, guys that went to FD, they get it. And you know, sometimes, you know, it's viewed in a negative way. But I mean, I just see nothing but positive. As far as the college prep, you know, they do a lot. The thing about FD is it's got people that care. You know, so you have, you know, whether it's Mr. Thompson, Mr. Temo, Mr. Boding, you just got Miss Manzanelli. You got people that care about the school.
You guys surprised as to how successful? I mean, Nainoa, Sally, Victorian, Len, Valley, Matias, #1 in the class right now. Are you guys surprised, or is this something that you expected?
I don't know that I expect it, but I believe that every child is capable of great things. And I really do believe that if we can help them, they can reach their potential. And I tell you, we have had all the children, all of our kids have had disappointment. They've all had have not gotten everything that they tried for. So you might call them failures. They haven't won everything, you know, but they have pulled themselves out, and this is the result.
I'm going to say a couple of things of your boys' peers and their classmates, and you tell me what you think of how they view your kids. Things like they look up to your boys, they were brought up very well, these are their peers. They're humble, great examples, student leaders, unbelievable work ethic, they don't cut corners, but most especially their humility stands out. How does that make you feel as parents?
Proud. It makes me feel like crying. Because it means a lot, you know, it means a lot to know that that the boys are respected and valued, and that they can be an example for others. You know, you just want them to do their best.
Okay, finally, this is where you can't pick one. All right, so both of you can answer. We'll see if you have the same answer. Yeah. So out of the 3, who's the funniest?
Matias.
Nainoa.
They have the same sense of humor.
Who's the most helpful?
Lenny.
Yeah, I guess Lenny.
All right. Who has the stinkiest socks?
Nainoa.
Matias.
Who has the most common sense?
Matias.
Nainoa.
Yeah, I know. I see that. And finally, who's the strongest mentally?
Lenny.
Lenny.
Thank you very much. That is it.
Whatever they've done, it's been a recipe for success. A recipe the rest of us should try and buy into.